And now to the discussion segment. Yes, community development. After all, the microcosm of every society, every city is the community. For now, going to the family. And when the community is threatened by some nefarious activities, it calls for worries. Yes, you might have heard about these abandonment, so to speak, or disbanding of CDAs. But for the fillers we are getting, it's like they are still operational. I mean, fully operational. You get to see some youths coming together saying they are for the communities. They want to develop the communities. You have to pay XYZ amount of money. Some communities, which we'll be talking about even on this platform here, they are doing that, saying if you have a parcel of land, they don't see buildings, they're going to divide the land into two. Take one part. Whatever they want to do with the other part, I don't know. Or either they take half of the land, or you pay them some amount of money ranging from 5 million, 10 million, 50 million, 500,000, 1 million, 200,000, depends on the size of that land. These are youths. The others are saying they have nothing to do with it. They don't even know where these youths are operating from. They are not aware. Whatever I want to do to them, do to them. And that is where we are today. With me here in the studio to talk about this, I have a political analyst and, of course, a very vibrant voice when we talk about Nigerian politics. Join me to welcome Honorable Odigie Wadiaya. Welcome to TMI. Appreciate your coming, sir.
Good morning.
All right. And very close to him is a former SSA to Governor Adams Leo Shomole, on community matters. Join me to welcome Collins Amadi. Welcome to TMI on this edition.
We'll say good morning, and viewers out there, good morning.
All right, now since you've occupied that office before, I believe that you have experience in this field. Our Revered Monarch talked about the disbandment of the CDAs, and of course it was given us a backing by the state government via the House of Assembly. But here we are today having reports of some youths coming together in the guise of developing the community, disturbing landowners, disturbing prospective landowners, disturbing developers, saying that they should pay one or two amount of money for the fees or levies or that, or else the land will be taken from them. You still get to hear about situation whereby a land is sold to more than one or two persons. These are the activities of some youths that say they are there for development vis-a-vis the CDAs that was disbanded. Collins, that used to be your office. What do you have to say about this?
Thank you very much. It's quite unfortunate that we still have things like this happening. Though little I would blame those who are putting themselves together to do this. The reason is very clear. Now, even before this last election, it was in a way a little bit reduced. But immediately after the election, you saw them come all out with all sense of being supported maybe by higher authority or what have you to do what they are doing. But also to go into it. I will continually appreciate the Reverend Oba of Benin for that initiative, you know, to at least to have put an end to this rascality we're seeing in most of the communities, especially in the Benin Kingdom. But however, it's just more than that. The House of Assembly went further, helping to enact a law that can guide the actions of those who will indeed persecute or those who will fall play or fall foul of what has been said. But committee was set up, headed by the former IGP, Honorable, should I call him Honorable? Solomon Arase, also followed by some other members of that committee. But believe me, that committee was starved till it faded out itself. Now, let me tell you, if government wants to show sincerity in what they are doing, now there is already a law. You already have the backing from the palace, which is the highest backing, even more effective than the law that comes from the House of Assembly, as it concerns with the Benins. We can even sometimes choose to say, what is the House of Assembly saying? Because sometimes you just believe that those who have gone there, they are your friends, they are your mates, they just do put things together, you wouldn't want to. But when it concerns the royal house, the Oba Palace, there is this natural fear. No matter how stubborn you are, that enters a Benin man. But for those who are still perpetrating themselves to be a Benin person, for example, it means there is another higher power that have told them, it doesn't matter, you just go ahead and do what you are doing. Now that committee, now you cannot set up a committee, for example, or which ought to be filled with men of honor and integrity. Maybe you have a committee of 20 persons. You bring in 2 people of honor that can talk into issues like this. Then you add another 99% of land speculators into that same committee. It cannot work, because there were some persons we know that themselves are land speculators. How can you expect something good to even come from there in the first place? And now you have committee that doesn't have logistics, and now those are sensitive assignments. You expect them to be moving. You expect them to have steady backup security personnel. You expect funds to be running. It should be an agency, not just mere committee. It should have turned into an agency. And 2, even when people are caught, now this now has to do with the police, because I have been part and parcel of most of these things in a way, directly or indirectly. Now, when a land speculator is being alleged or arrested with obviously that foul play had taken place, and they are taken to the station, and you get to the station, you are asked to bail yourself with 400,000, 500,000. You bail yourself, you go, and they give you people another adjournment to return back in 6 months' time or 5 months' time. Or even you that they have taken his land, you come to the station, expecting that even the committee will back you. At the time, there were a lot of allegations even against that committee that was set up. People will call them, and at the end of the day, no response was coming.
All right, now
so there are lots
of it
really to be done.
Now, not to worry, I will come back to you to really buttress the point you've been making. Honorable over there, why was yet making this point? You just giggled, you smiled because of the point you raised. Could you please give expressions to your smiles and all that?
Yeah, to add flavor to what Abdul just said. Yeah, it was a noble idea when the Oba of Benin muted the dismantling of the CDA. And it was duly supported by the government. And everybody in Edo Kingdom and the Edo lives in the diaspora welcomed the development. And we were expecting that the committee set up under the leadership of Solomon Arias would continue and do the needful. Because at that particular time, most of the CDAs, they were logged on onto themselves. And it was more of like a relief opportunity for us to do things in the rightful manner. There's hardly any Edo person has not been a victim of the CDA. Either you buy land twice, even 3 times. Even there are some cases people die. And the CDA chairman, they go into war, or the CDA chairman, they go into war, and politicians will also use them during the elections. So we always have the negative, consequence. And at the end of the day, the PPP that was set up died a natural death. Arase pulled out. Osaro Baze pulled out. And others, eventually, they dissolved into the thin air. But what we want to say is that Nigeria being what we are, we would have expected the government to monitor the activities of this PPP and also the traditional institution to also monitor them.
Yeah.
They did not actually bring in, the legal mind into this PPP, composition. They were mostly politicians and some CDA land speculators, or rather land speculators. They formed that committee. So at the end of the day, there were many loopholes. And I don't think the palace is aware of what went wrong. And the law is that the implementation, the police were not doing their job. We all know how things are in Nigeria. If you arrest the CDA chairman, take the CDA chairman to the police station, you are just wasting your time. So we feel that the time has come. The governor has done well by supporting Omanoba. The State House of Assembly, they have done well for giving a legal teeth to that law. It is now for them to monitor the activities of the PP so that we all can have, a respite. So what they really need to do now, yes, the first committee was a failure, but that does not mean that we should end the PPP activity right there. They can reconstitute the membership. They can bring in retired judges, lawyers, people that understand law, instead of bringing in politicians and former CDA members. So now the law is on your side. If anybody comes to your side while working, you have every right to defend yourself. You have every right to defend yourself. That's what the law says. Anybody that is coming to your place that is armed, even with a stick, the person is armed, is a threat to your life. Right. You can resist that person.
Okay.
If you come to the worst, you end up in court.
All right, I will come back to you, Honorable, because this seems to be a kind of a problem in on the neck of so many developers, because they've been complaining about it, crying about it. Now, tell me, what do you feel about this other game, so to speak, or gimmick by this group of persons coming together to cause heartache and pain to land developers? Or you get to a situation whereby you have a parcel of land, there's a foundation already. Some persons just be like, since they didn't see any building, no sign of development, they divide the land into two. Keep one part, or you have to pay them money again to retain the land. There was a case at Ubojobo, yes. It says you pay at least 5 million, 10 million, 100,000, 200,000, 800,000, depending on the size of the land. What do you feel about this development?
Yes, because we are in a lawless society, to say, where an individual can just wake up and assume and then work in his assumption. Otherwise, because sometimes our people are also very fearful because of the situations that surrounds us. When these boys have taken tramadol, they have taken all sort of nonsense. Even sometimes you even take the security personnel to go pick them up. When even getting there, you see them shaking. Hey, now you are far. You know, it gives you this kind of discouragement to even pursue things you could pursue ordinarily legally. Even those were assumed to help us legally, like what my leader had just said. This committee was supposed to be attached to the office of the Attorney General or the Commissioner for Justice of the state, as it were, in order to have an effective legal backing. And not just young lawyers that are veterans. Though in Nigeria, it is not with age that makes you corrupt, or not. Even most times the old men are even more corrupt. But however, maybe it can give us some sense that something good can come out of it. But however, these guys are doing what they are doing, because after taking what they are taking, they hold guns, they do all sort of things, nobody can talk to them. But it's not supposed to be like that. When you have men that are brave, that have courage, you ask them to manage an institution, as it were, be sure, no matter the intimidation, they would deliver. Sure, they would deliver. But right now, somebody in Ubojobo, for example, is assuming and saying, the land, does it belong to your family? Is it your family land? And or at what ground are you giving this order? And he could give this order and go free because he's close to persons in high places. Now, for example, the palace who was the real brain behind the CDA disbandment, because it was only the palace that had the courage to have done that. Successive government, no government ordinarily, with the relationship politicians and government all this while have continually created with thugs and people of innate attitude. We not even allow them to do it or make such pronouncement, because they will not even obey them, because in the evening they see themselves together also clubbing and doing all sorts of nonsense together. So anything you say in the afternoon really doesn't matter, because they will counterfeit it in the beer parlor in the evening. But however, now these guys need to pull themselves together and understand. Now when the Oba started the initiative, there was the first perulad that he drew up, a way in which job can be created for these youths in all of the communities. This way, you know, first thing first, you know, government have a way of procrastinating, and at the end they end up doing nothing. Now some of these youths were already living so flamboyantly. How can you expect someone who does not even own a primary six, who does not even own a barber salon, who does not even own anything like struggling or even a small shop, caravan where he sell Indomie, he does not even own any. But today he brings out Formatic, tomorrow he brings out Venza, tomorrow he exchanged people's land with vehicles. He exchanged people's land with visa to travel abroad. We saw this happening when I was there. In short, my first document that I put together on CDA, I'm sure it's still in the governor's office. In short, I did three sets of communique on how we should go about this thing. Thank God, most of the things that I even documented at that time were some of the initiatives that came from the palace, you know, and I was so happy when I later saw some of these things coming to bear. Now, in which area has government tried to pull these youths together? Because they once had an association. They had an association where they were putting themselves together. Is there anything concrete that was settled then?
All right.
That was being put in place? If there was none, that is the beginning of failure for those who indeed brought out the program. Now, if you say we are disbanding you guys, in the next few months, we are going to work on community development. Because even if you go to the House of Assembly enactment, as it were, the time we had a cohesive House of Assembly, that was when that law came in. Otherwise, they would have said it's the fashioner law. Okay. But as at that time, they were together. It was a full house that gave us that law. And it was well gazetted. Okay. So it ought to be. Now, tell me, is it by community policing? Is it by even ordinary pure water factory? If individual can build pure water factory, governments cannot build pure water factory. Or what is the enabling thing that led to the disbandment, or that was said that these people should be brought together, a sense of job should be created, a sense of belonging, or even if you want to call it, the state as it were, can give amnesty to them, because most of these
hold on amnesty, no, hold on, you just hold on there, Collins. I will come back to you on that. Well, honorable, he talked about amnesty, and of course, you know,
creative jobs and all whatnot.
Anyway, digging more into the situation, the elders are saying that
encouraging illegality in Nigeria. We now see as an alternative, if you can no longer make it in the rightful manner, go into crime, then the government will now compensate you. I will not support that. I will not support that. The CDA members, when they prescribe that CDA, let them go and find jobs. The government I mean, should not provide job for them. Is the government coming to you know, provide job for me, or rather give me amnesty? I mean, for being honest, no. I mean, if you say so, then the Fulanis are also justified for saying, give us amnesty. Well, or the kidnappers are also saying, give us amnesty. The bandits are also saying, give us... I'm coming, my brother. There's no hold back.
You shouldn't ascribe it to a tribe, please.
Those are saying, give us amnesty. The Yorubas are saying, give us amnesty. The X-Men are saying, give us amnesty. No, no, no. The government did not encourage those refracts from the communities to indulge in selling of lands. And at the appropriate time, the government and the traditional institution saw that the time has come for us to put a banned or prescribed CDA. They should go and look for work. Period.
They should go and look for work.
They should go and look for work. They can farm. They have lands in their various communities. Why can't they farm? I'm a farmer. Why can't they farm? They have daily paid jobs. They can become laborers. The whole of them are all, you know, uneducated. They are all illiterates. So you cannot go and make any of them, a bank manager.
Well, the thing is that you cannot say that all are illiterate.
Yeah, they are illiterate, so they should go and look for.
Some of them are well read.
Very educated. Yeah.
Some of them are well read.
I have not seen any of them.
Okay, but some of them are well read. Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say in essence is that government should not be taxed to make or to give amnesty to these people that have indulged themselves in nefarious activities.
Okay.
We've had enough.
He said no amnesty, go out there and look for work. Now, further investigation revealed that the elders are saying that they have nothing to do with it.
They do. They do.
They do.
You know why? The same elders from those communities, those youths are their children. There's no way the elders, the Odion way and others will say they don't know them. They are all from that community. Now, let me tell you, in Benin Kingdom, if you buy a land and you want to commence work, you do what is called Olu, Agbolu. What you do by Olu is that you cook. Invite people from that street to come and join you, to pay libation to your ancestors, and feed those that want to assist in working. That's just it. But when the CDA came, they said, oh, you can no longer be cooking, monetize it. And they now fix their own price. I have done that, what you call CDA development, 250,000. There are some places where you will buy a land for 150,000. Then your Olu, the Olu, they say, will be almost 500,000. Can you imagine?
All right. All right. I'll come back to you, Honorable. Now, he said no amnesty. And over these others are saying, whatever you want to do to this group of persons, do to them. So defend your land, defend your land, whatever means you want to use. What do you feel about this? Is it not in the place of these elders to put this youth to check?
Yes, they cannot put them really to check. Sometimes I feel for our elders, many of them really would have wanted peace in their domain. But unfortunately, when you have a child who indeed have been encouraged by those in high places to perpetrate inadequacy, to perpetrate illicit characters, to perpetrate violence, even most of them had to hide their heads, even as their own parents. Because one, you see these young men holding sophisticated weapons, even bringing them to the house. Some beat up their parents. Yes, and if I complain the son of an Odion way, I am Ozukbo giver. Then the son gangs up and comes to my house, threatens me. I run to the station for safety, and nobody answers me. And tomorrow he burns my house and go after my children. Then who do I call upon? So there are institutional failure. That was why I said, you don't just disband. You don't just wake up and take decisions or continually make promises like the ones our government do. Repeatedly make promises and not adhere to the things they've said. They will not even go back to the paper they submit before the people to say, we will do this, we will do this. They will only come after 4 years and tell you we couldn't consolidate or we couldn't do this because we had political rivals. But even when coming, you know there will be political rivals. So when you already set an agenda, you don't have to be everywhere. You delegate those with capacity. You delegate those who have sense of reasoning as human as you are, or even better than you do. But in a situation where people who already have opportunity of being in government or being in power or leading begin to monopolize to know it all, then there is a problem. You want your eyes to see everything. You want to hear everything. You want to be the one to transfer yourself. You want to know how many alert comes in. No, you must sometimes create some trust for people to assist you. That is where things can run. Now, on the issue of the amnesty I talked about, amnesty does not really mean you bring them out and keep paying them and paying them. There is a way you bring people out after. The amnesty can even be 1 day. You can even bring them up and say, okay, you, those who build, they have a handwork. You are a mechanic before. Many of them used to have a handwork. Many of them were drivers. Some were mechanics.
Are you justifying what they are doing right now in the communities by saying amnesty to them?
I am not justifying. I am only saying, if your son is an armed robber and he gets money every night when he goes for robbery. Like what most of them are doing right now is a direct robbery. But you cannot use coercion to just say stop robbery. There must be a way, there must be a counselor introduced who will help to continually counsel the child. If the child used to buy mineral and egg roll every day, he reduces in a way, okay, take to buy Coke once a day or once in 2 days. Gradually, he becomes used to the system again. Now what I'm saying, most of those people were identified at that time, they were even disbanded them. I was very on the know. Those who are doing handwork, that they will give them AYZ to start their own life, to start their own profession, promising never to go back to start speculating. But when all these were not done, for example, it's not justified in any way, but the truth is that these were the same people they will meet during an election and promise them, don't worry, this person will be coordinating all the CDA chairmen. Don't worry, if we win, you people will go back. For example, before they arrest you, they must tell us. If you tell us, we go tell so person say you be our own, they will release you. So they have that infantry to continue to do what they are doing. So our elders, I continue to pray for you people that God will give you good children. And when you have good children, you will nurture them in the way of God so that they will have the fear of God. Because the basic thing is that most of these children also does not have a moral upbringing. Because if, for example, you have a moral upbringing, even when you are becoming a wire, sometimes you must have a reflection of where you are coming from. The truth is that most of these guys grew up at the city center, should I say ring road of old, that they had no boundary and they have no respect for anybody, especially when they've taken what they could take. And if you are that is full of fear, they can easily eat you up. And you trust our people, nobody wants to die, and that gave them that liberty to continue to do what they are doing.
All right, now what do you have to say about this situation before the disbandment of CDA? Because it's like in the pathetic case, the CDAs, they were settled, the elders were settled, everybody cooked for, and the rest of them. CDAs got disbanded, and of course life goes on. All of a sudden another group came together saying this is what they want to do. Bulldoze the land, we want to develop the land and all that. If there are no buildings in your land, we will share the land and do this and do that. After that, in the community, what action do you think should be taken against those group of persons that just came together, like, merry men doing whatever they want to do in the community?
It is not another group. It is still the CDA members, the former CDA member that was proscribed. They are regrouping.
All right.
And I think what we need to do, including the government and the traditional institution, Omo should make a pronouncement. Call all the communities, Enogie and the Odion Wigs, and read the riot act to them. And the riot act in Edo is different from, and I think the compliance level from those groups will be more effective. And the government should reconstitute the committee made up of really qualified and competent individuals that will do the right thing. And anybody found wanting should be sanctioned, not just treating the person with amicus gloves. The people, that's the developers and the Edo-likes, should also be made aware of their rights, not necessarily succumb to threats, to mere threats. These people, they just use intimidation. They are equally as afraid, just like you. So let them, educate them, orient them, sensitize them, and if we know our rights, and there should be an appropriate or a channel for us to report any interference with any job, that is ongoing job. So if everybody is involved, they are just mere minorities in every small community. And I think we'll be able to arrest the development. We don't want this thing to get to the same level as it were before the prescription. So, and also the government should try and shy away from using this group of persons during election. Because once you use them, you become their friend. They have direct access to you. Then at the appropriate time when you win, you dump them based on that relationship they've established with you.
They go back.
They go back to whatever they are doing with impunity. Because there's no way, if you help me to become somebody and you are arrested tomorrow, definitely I must have a soft spot for you. So these things should be stopped.
All right, all right. Thank you so much. Honorable Collins, your last line on this discussion.
Yes, I want to also appreciate the fact that we have talked about the reconstituting of the committee, as my leader has said. It's not just to reconstitute, like what I said from the onset. Though in reconstituting, we must be sure of persons we are putting there. But you don't constitute without funding. That has become something very relative with this present administration. For example, you constitute committees, you don't fund them. Would they use their teeth to do the work? No. Now, not just constitute them as a committee, this thing should metaphor into a real agency that should be there as long as a DO exists. It should be an agency that you should have people who would either serve every five years, every 4, just like NDDC, NACA, and as it were.
To take care of these issues.
To just focus on this. And there should be different departments in the inside the agency. From there, you can have subcommittee. And they should be well funded. But you know the problem we have with government. When you have a section that will not produce financial return, government does not want to put in funds. So if, for example, government will feel, oh, if we are funding people to go and be going around the bush, checking people's property, but that's safety of the people, the welfare of the people, ordinarily, which ought to be paramount. But it's not there. But when government will not get, where they will not get money from, where they will not get returns from, they don't want to invest, and it's a problem. So government need to truly invest on this.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much, Collins. You've spoken to the government. Honorable, I need you to talk about to people in a minute that have been affected by these activities of these resurfacing CDAs that have been disbanded. You know, it's like, you know, it's like a resource, so to speak. What do you think these landowners should do?
Well, first and foremost, the need to meet with the community, the elders of the community. And once they commence work, if there is any disturbance from the youth, they can do the appropriate thing by going to the police. And thereafter, they can sue for trespassing. And if they seize their property while working, they have every right, because there's a law in our state that nobody has right to interrupt, you know, work. So if they come and stop your workers, you have every right to go to court and bring in you know, a criminal case against them. So don't take the law into your own hand. But if they come there and armed, you also have every right, to protect yourself.
All right. All right.
You also have right to protect yourself, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, gentlemen. I appreciate a wonderful analysis. We have other discussers standing by to share their own opinions and, of course, view on this particular discourse. Well, you've heard them. Land speculators resurging CDAs, you just name it. The elders are saying they're not in support of this group of persons. So as a landowner, you've heard Honorable, you've heard Collins, even a message also to the governor, and of course to our revered monarch. It's like these guys are coming back. Yeah, it's like, a resurgence coming back again to disturb developers, to disturb land buyers and owners, to disturb the peace of communities by asking for money. I just keep on wondering, what should be done about this? You have the right to protect yourself, to protect your land according to what my analyst says, but do within the ambient of the law. We'll be right back to continue with other discussion segments on TMI. Do stay tuned.